Good evening, students. Welcome to POL 2260, Comparative Politics. It's an introductory course. And my name is Dr. Hill Krishnan. And a little bit about me. I'm originally from India. I have a bachelor's in mechanical engineering, and I have graduate degrees in sciences and international affairs and political science PhDs from Boston University. Now, if it's in a regular class, I would love to know each one of you. I will ask you to introduce yourself, but now you could write it up in your first answer, a little bit about yourself. Now let's jump right into the course to show you an understanding of what this course is all about. And we're going to have fun. I guarantee you that. Okay? And you will learn a lot, and it's going to open your mind to see this world differently. Political sphere is going to change for you. I guarantee. I don't know how many of you have taken a political science course before. And I know many of my students come from business background, majoring in finance, accounting, and haven't taken a single course in political science. If that is, that's okay. You will learn and able to get an excellent grade if you follow me and do the assignments. Okay. So for those who have never taken a course in politics, before I talk about comparative politics, what is politics? Tell me. Do you see what politics is? If it's in classroom, I hear different answers. People saying like politics is people running for office. Politics is that people trying to gain power. You're very good. You're close. It is competition for public power. Politics is competition for public power. Okay? And now you could ask, what is power? We use this word all the time. Superman has powers, Spider-Man has powers, right? All the comic heroes have power. What is power? Especially in the context of politics. What do you think is power? Have you ever thought about it? Extending your will to influence others. Exactly. So, as a professor of this course, I might have a tiny power to make you do the assignments even if you don't want to do it because you might lose your grade. So I have power over you in that course. Whereas my department chair has more powers than me in designing how to run an entire department. And the dean of the school has way more power. And the president of the university have way more powers in organizing the entire institution of Baruch College in the fashions he think will be effective for learning. It's an educational institution. And how about the president of the United States? He has enormous powers that will impact all the American lives. Okay? Me or my dean or my chair wouldn't have the ability to influence all Americans because we don't have that much power, but the president has. And what about for those who believe in God or not? Think about God. His powers are unfathomable, right? So powers is to extend the will, extend one's will. That is, I want you to learn this course very well. And I am extending my will to make you learn by putting a grade on all these assignments. Are you there? I hope you have read the syllabus so you could know exactly where you are graded and you could follow it. And I would love to see all of you get an A grade. If you do it, that's how you do it. Okay? Now, what is comparative politics? We understand politics. What's comparative politics? Have you ever thought about it? Comparing what? Well, if you say Tom is taller than Jill, how do you say that? You're comparing them, right? You're not making Jill stand in a different platform. You're putting them in the same platform and seeing one person is taller than the other. You're comparing. Here in comparative politics, you're comparing what to what? You're comparing one country's institutions, their government and others to another country's. Okay? So country of, say, for example, United States could be compared with Canada. In fact, my doctoral dissertation was comparing minorities' freedom of speech especially a particular minority group I studied, Tamils, in Canada versus the United States. And so you compare it. Okay, that's comparative politics. You're comparing inside the country. Some of you might have heard or at least taken a course in international relations. That's also part of politics. It's entirely one of the subdivisions of political science. International politics, international relations. Now, how is this different from this course, you might ask? International relations is a relationship between two countries. So say me and you, it is the relationship between you and me, in between us, is studied in international relations. So war between two countries, it's between. Trade between two countries, diplomacy between two countries, all those are studied in international relations. Whereas in comparative politics, we compare between me and you inside. So inside is like, oh, what's Hill's height, my height and weight, and my BMI or fat percentage versus yours height, weight. And so you see, so why is this useful? Why do I need to study this? There's a lot of reasons, I'll tell you. I told you that you're going to understand and see the world differently, right? By studying, by comparing. So if somebody is healthy and somebody is unhealthy, okay, because a lot of you go to exercise and other things in this age, you understand it better. That's why I'm using that analogy. How do you study somebody is healthy because, and somebody is unhealthy because? You want to know, right? So that you could learn the best elements from it. That's what a scholar of comparative politics does. He wants to know why some societies are successful, peaceful, happier. Some societies are not. So, in the analogy I gave you, what is this person eating? Is this person exercising regularly, lifting weights or just walking? What is he doing? Compared to this person, oh, this person doesn't do anything. Couch potato, watches just TV. The only exercise he does is pressing the remote buttons. Wonder what? And what is his diet? Oh, fried potatoes. And this person eats, oh, a lot of healthy food. So the comparisons, so that we could understand and learn. And in a country, between countries, there's going to be a lot of variables I'm going to throw, but it might not be comprehensible to some of you. That is okay. Don't worry about it, because that's why you are enrolled in this course, and we're going to study step by step those things. So I will be talking about patriotism, nationality, ethnic conflict, and different types of executive power. We'll be talking about different systems of legislative power, and we will talk about judicial systems, all those things. That is like comparing diet, exercise, all those things between these two. We compare these things between these countries. That's comparative politics. International relations, war, trade, all those here inside the country. What type of institutions? So, for example, in the United States, Supreme Court is an institution. Okay, Congress is an institution. The U.S. Senate inside Congress itself is an institution. So you could study these institutions. There are scholars who study the U.S. Supreme Court, not the entire history, which will be a broad study, deep, just from 1920s to 1950s they could study, or under one Supreme Court Chief Justice, the rules, the laws they stuck down. They could study that in detail. And now you might ask, why do I need to study that? Why do I need to have that as a course? Because we need to know why. Many times professors don't explain to us, why do we study calculus? Find the area under the curve. Why do we need to find an area under the curve? How does it apply? Right? Here, when you take a newspaper, and look at it, oh, this country is having a coup, or this country is having a revolution, and you're talking about why is that happening? Based on your learning, you could understand. That's an educated mind compared to an ordinary person who's not educated in this, will not be able to comprehend. Okay? That comes under political violence. We're going to discuss a whole week of political violence. We'll be talking about revolution, coup d'etat, all those things. Okay? So now, let's proceed. This is an introductory class, so for the course, and so I don't want to lay it all over step by step. I want you to read the book and also follow the lectures and watch the documentaries and answer the assignments. That's how you learn wonderfully and get an A. Hey, it's a win-win. You do well, I do well, and I'd be happy grading your papers rather than, oh man, this is a miserable answer. This is not only wrong, it's where do I take off points? I want, oh yes, my students, all of them get it. And you can get it. I know Baruch students. I've been teaching here for 5 years. I know. All right, let's start with, is there a commonality? You know, that we talked about the difference between international relations and comparative politics. Is there commonality? Yeah. Sometimes an ethnic conflict happening inside. Don't worry if you don't know what ethnicity is. You heard of the word ethnicity, race. We'll be talking about it in next class, next video. Okay. So ethnic conflicts which happens inside a country could spill over into international arena outside the borders of the country. And it'll be somebody who is an international relations scholar could study that. Okay. All right, good. Now, let's talk about the founders, the great legends who thought about this and wrote ideas. Who are these guys who studied comparing one country to another? Let's start with the oldest scholar, which the Western world know for studying comparative politics. We call them comparativists, right? Comparativist, V-I-S-T, and plural S. Aristotle, yes, the same Greek philosopher Aristotle. You heard of him, right? Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. If you want to remember them in order, S-P-A, SPA. You all like SPA, right? Don't you? Okay, SPA. Remember S, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. One was a student of another. Socrates, Plato was his student, and then Aristotle. Aristotle was very bookish, very methodical. He had he's a library, and he contributed so many words to the English dictionary. I mean, faculty we use, disciplines, right? There was a philosophy, but he divided the philosophy into different branches. But for example, political science didn't exist. Politics, he brought politics afield. And he does empirical. I'm going to write it down in the board. Yes, I have a small board for you. Okay. Empirical studies. What does that mean? What does the empirical means? It's based on, not on logic, but on observation and our experience. So the Egyptians believed when the Nile River flooded, they thought, oh, God got mad and so it flooded. But Aristotle sent men to go and see the origin of Nile. And he observed, oh, when snow melts, there's too much water in the river. That's why it floods. Scientific, rather than believing in a supernatural, natural. You following? So Aristotle, how did he study politics? Comparativist. He compared the city-states. What do you mean city-states? You will learn more about city-states in next class, what a state itself is. But right now, just follow me. I will just use it for a generic term. Countries, you compare different countries, because Greece itself was divided into multiple countries. Have you heard of Athens, Sparta? Maybe this will sound a bell. How about 300, the movie? We are Sparta! Yes, the Spartans were one country. The Athenians were one country. They fought wars. It's called Peloponnesian War. So Aristotle studied each of these countries. If you look at it, Athenians, they had a democracy, the birth of democracy, right? That's an idea, right? All these things we discuss here are ideas. It's amazing how this intangible thing, ideas, influence freaking the entire world, not just countries, the world. And so Spartans didn't have democracy. They had a different form of government. Okay? And so you would understand. So he was understanding what's going on inside each of these countries, institutions, and how one is better or not and what are the repercussions of having such institutions. Isn't that a great? I mean, this is, you know what time period he lived? He lived 384 to 322 BC. That's like 300, 400 years before Jesus Christ. Yes, Jesus Christ. And he studied that, Aristotle. So after him, we're going to jump to another guy called Machiavelli. Aristotle I didn't spell because you all know Aristotle. But Machiavelli, most of you might not have heard. But if you have heard, people will say, oh, this guy is a Machiavellian. That means somebody is trickerous guy. They call him Machiavelli. Niccolo Machiavelli, Italian. I mean, Italy was not a whole country until the 19th century. This guy's time period is, where is he? Yes, 1469 to 1527. 1469 to 1527. His contemporary is Leonardo Da Vinci. Yep, Leonardo Da Vinci is contemporary. So Machiavelli, I don't want to go and talk about his story. Each of these guys, 8 of them, I'm going to discuss here today. And each guy has their own stories. I've read the biographies. It's fascinating, their lives and how it affects them, all those. But Machiavelli, here, there's an introductory course and you don't need details as much other than things which will make you remember. Machiavelli is also empirical. What did he compare? Aristotle compared Greek states, different countries inside Greece. He did compare, I told you Italy was not a whole country, different countries which were, Italy was not a whole country. Even if you go to ancient Rome was a country, right? But Rome is just one city now. It's under Italy. And so Florence, all these were different countries. So he compared, they are called city-states. Now, modern times, there is a city-state. You want to know what it is? Singapore, for example, is a city-state. Singapore, capital is Singapore. It's like Washington, D.C. alone, a whole country. And so it will be Washington, D.C., the capital. It's New York City being its own country, imagine. So he compared them. They had differences, different types of institutions, and wrote about it. Niccolo Machiavelli. And he wrote a book, probably you heard of it, Prince, right? But discourses of Niccolo Machiavelli were more detailed compared to Prince. Yeah, that's a book, Discourses of Machiavelli. Anyway, let's move on to another guy, third guy. So if I ask you in an exam, what are the 4 fathers of comparative politics? Name 5 out of the 8 and write them. You got to write it. That's why I teach you. And that's why I'm telling you, so that you keep notes of all my lectures, so that in exam time you won't have time to watch all these things. It's exactly 2 hours. Boom, boom, boom. You have to write. Okay. The third one, Thomas Hobbes. You know how to spell Thomas. I don't need to tell you. Hobbes. 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 British. Okay. Thomas Hobbes, time period, 1588 to 1679. What's this guy's contribution? Why did we need to study him? Well, he created an idea called social contract. Social, quote unquote, social contract. What's social contract? What's that? Social contract is, I'm going to explain to you in a simple way. Now, we live in, assume you all are Americans, or some of you are from other countries, but you're watching this video from America. We have a government, right, in the US. I'm talking about federal government. We have multiple governments, actually, thousands, yes. That's not a discussion for this class. State government, city, municipal, but we have a federal government. We have a social contract. What is the social contract? The responsibility of the federal government is to protect us. From what? Protect us from enemies outside. If North Korea launches a nuclear missile, you're going to run and catch it like a Superman? No. The federal government has the equipments and the resources to stop it. It's their responsibility. The President of the United States, the Constitution, he takes the oath on, his responsibility is to protect the United States citizens, US citizens. So they do that service for us. In return, what do we do? in return. For that, it's a quid pro quo, give and take. We, in return, give up some of our liberties. Liberty to what? Liberty for what? I cannot go and kill my neighbor. Or I can't steal from my neighbor. Forget about killing, an extreme. Because if I steal, they're going to arrest. Right? Who's arresting? Cops. Who's cops from? NYPD. That's the city government. Right? So you are exchanging with the government the right to protect you. Similarly, my neighbor cannot steal from me or kill me when I'm sleeping because I'm protected by the same laws. So the government creates laws, you obey those laws. In return, they will protect you from enemies outside North Korea or any country which will try to kill us, nuke us, and from the neighbor who might kill you in sleep. So threat from outside and inside, the government protects. In exchange, you give up some of your liberty not to mess up that contract. That is the contract, agreement. That's Hobbes' idea. Hobbes' idea is, so you give up some of your rights to violate other people so that the government protects you. They're giving you peace and order. Peace and order in society. Order is maintained through policing. Policing itself means governing in French. Okay. Social contract. Now, let's look at John Locke, another guy. You know how to spell John? Locke is L-O-C-K-E. John Locke, time period 1632 to 1704. Okay, 1632 to 1704. He also is a social contract theory guy. Okay, there are three social contract theory guys. Second one is this dude. And he wrote a book called Two Treatises on Government. Okay, and Thomas Jefferson read his book, this book I'm mentioning, and he right-click, copy, pasted something in our Declaration of Independence. You want to know what it is? Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. That's right. Pursuit of happiness was not John Locke's words. John Locke's words were pursuit of property. And Thomas Jefferson just changed that part, pursuit of, instead of property, put it as happiness, because he wanted such a lofty document as Declaration of Independence not to have the property, which is crude to some people. Life, liberty. So John Locke wants a small government. Why small government? Because John Locke believed government will violate your personal liberty. He believes property rights are important. Write it down, all these things. Property rights are important. And in that book, he talked about smaller government so that people will have liberty. So not having a government at all, because James Madison, who's the father of the American Constitution, said, if men were angels, we don't need a government. Are we angels? I don't have wings, do you? That means we're not, if we are angels, we will always be doing good. We're not, we could do bad, so that's why we need government to bring order. So government is an essential one. But John Locke says it is, however, we need minimum government. The modern political party which believes in minimum government is Republicans. Democrats want more government because they believe that government could do more good. Okay? Because Hobbes believed the threat could come to your liberty from outside your country, from enemies, or enemies from inside, which is your neighbor. But John Locke believed that the threat could come from your government for your liberty. Interesting idea, right? Similarly, another guy, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, a French dude. John is spelled J-E-A-N, John, Jacques, J-A-C-Q-U-E-S, Jacques Rousseau, R-O-S-S-E-A-U, Rousseau. Jean-Jacques Rousseau. He's different. He's also a social contract theory guy, okay? He believed in civil rights. Civil rights. What is civil right? You probably heard of civil rights in this COVID time. People marched for African American rights in this country, right? I mean, Martin Luther King and others marched, but a lot of people marched, young people, despite COVID and others marched. Civil rights are rights, group rights. Okay, write it down. Group rights, especially minority rights, which could be crushed by the majority. So African Americans are the minority in this country, whites majority. Their civil rights have been violated for a long time. And so Jean-Jacques Rousseau believed in civil rights are inalienable. Okay? Citizens' rights are inalienable. Have you heard of this inalienable word? Yeah, you got it. You got it. That's from Declaration of Independence. Again, all these ideas, Thomas Jefferson read these guys and wrote that ideas. Inalienable and cannot be taken away. It cannot be taken away by the government. These are inalienable, means it cannot be separated from me. It is part of me. And it's there. And it's part of you as well. You have the right. Okay? And that's why when cops arrest you, they have to present you in front of a judge. You have the right for a lawyer. All these are in the Constitution, Bill of Rights. Okay? These are ideas. And these guys are political scientists or forethought thinkers, comparativists who compared. So, okay. Now I talked about 6 dudes. Now 7th dude, Karl Marx. Karl Marx is a German. Yeah, Marxism. Have you heard of it? Yeah, based on him. Called K-A-R-L. Marx is M-A-R-X. 1818 to 1883. 1818 to 1883. Is a German Jewish scholar who created this idea of capitalism and democracy is going to die off. Because he thought, he heard of proletariat and bourgeoisie. Bourgeoisie is the capitalist who exploit the proletariat, the working class. And so he wrote these ideas. Okay, his famous book is Das Kapital. And they're exploiting them. This capitalists are exploiting. So now some people would say, neo-Marxian, hey, Amazon is exploiting the employees. Amazon, the Jeff Bezos has so much money he makes. When pandemic, so many people are suffering, right, without employment and others. Whereas people like billionaires, Bezos and Elon Musk made so many billions more. So Marx thinks those are actually money which are belong to the people, their work. People means the employees, the workers, the rich just take the money from them. That's Marx's idea. Yeah, Marx's ideas after his death created a firestorm around the world. Many governments were created, communist governments. The big one was Soviet Union. And then many other countries, Cuba, Vietnam, even Eastern Germany, right? All these countries which had, even China, right? So these ideas are not just ideas, ladies and gentlemen. All these ideas I'm talking about are powerful, concrete, and it affects not 1 or 2 or 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000, millions of lives. So you got to know this if you're an educated mind, how these ideas affect. Okay. By the way, only in this first lecture it'll be more theories and ideas. Then it'll be practical, more case studies. It's fun. It's more fun. In my opinion, it's more fun the second, third, it goes on. You will learn more. Okay. This might be a little dry, then it gets juicier. Trust me, that's my opinion. You see and you learn. You tell me what your thoughts are. Okay. 8th dude, the last one, thinker, Max Weber. Max, M-A-X, Weber is W-E-B-E-R. Max Weber. He's from 1864, okay, end of Civil War almost. 1920. Max Weber is a sociologist, and his ideas are bureaucracy, okay, culture, how culture has an impact on the economy of a country. So he's the one who wrote the book, The Protestants' Work Ethic and Capitalism. So if you look at it, in Europe, the northern parts of Europe are Protestant, and the lower parts are Catholic, like Italy and others. So the northern parts are richer because of Protestant work ethic. I didn't say Max Weber's ideas. And people compare. He's comparing the countries in Northern Europe compared to the countries in Southern Europe, right? Okay. So this 8 dudes. Now let's move on to other things. So this class is nuts and bolts. Nuts and bolts. You learn nuts and bolts so that you could put together a machinery. You have to know the nuts and bolts to build a machine or understand how a machine works. When I did my undergraduate in mechanical engineering, we will learn about nuts and bolts and all this. They're not going to teach you right away machine design, which come later. Beginning small things. Okay. The first one, there are 2 types of reasoning. Okay. Deductive reasoning, inductive reasoning. That's it. Okay. At least for this class. Deductive reasoning, inductive reasoning. It is used in comparative politics. What's deductive reasoning? The common philosophical example is all men are mortal. Okay, that's one phrase. All men are mortal. Socrates is a man. So from these 2 things, you could deduce, so Socrates is mortal, right? If all men are mortal and Socrates is a man, he's one of those men, right? Then what do you deduce? Socrates is mortal. That is deductive reasoning. Based on those 2 lines, you are able to deduce. Inductive reasoning is different. So I'll tell you the examples as well. Deductive reasoning start with hypothesis, okay, and then ends with, and it seeks out evidence. So that is how people usually do research. So in the COVID time, it's a virus, and then, okay, we could conquer this virus, never seen this virus before, right? 2 years ago, there's other coronaviruses, but not this. How we could conquer this? Okay, we could create vaccine because this is a virus and we have conquered other viruses, other coronaviruses, SARS, MERS, and how do we conquer our influenza, flu viruses, all of those are viruses. We could create a vaccine and control it. So the hypothesis is created. And then they go about working on it to find a part of the corona, means the crown, and to create a vaccine which will recognize that crown if you get infected, because your immune system is already alerted through this vaccination, if you get this analogy. Similarly, or in the opposite, inductive reasoning goes from one particular to general. That is, deductive reasoning goes from general, all men are mortal, to finally deducing Socrates is mortal. All men are mortal, Socrates is a man, so Socrates is mortal. That's general to particular. Inductive reasoning, particular to general. Particular to general. So I could go on and say, sometimes inductive reasonings could be wrong. I'll give you an example. I go look around America. Swan in New York State is white. I go around Florida, white. Okay, Western Hemisphere, Latin America, everywhere, they're white. Maybe go to England, white. All right, I could say, I've seen so many countries, swans all are white. I go from particular to the entire world, swans are white, I'm deducing. Because I haven't checked Australia. If you check Australia, Australia has black swans. So then the inductive reasoning could be wrong. Whereas deductive reasoning going from like a funnel, you nail it. You follow it? We use that. give me an example in comparative politics, inductive reasoning. North Korea, okay? North Korea is authoritative because it's a communistic country. It's a communistic country. And so, and you could take that because you studied North Korea, and then you could go around checking for evidence in other communistic countries around the world and see whether they are authoritative. Yeah. But yes, mostly. But here's the thing: in India, has communist parties. They run for office democratically. They haven't secured power much for the entire country of India. But the point I'm trying to make is, it's not necessarily inductive reasoning could be true. Are you with me? Didn't I lose you? Good. All right. So next one to learn is, just like I told you, deductive reasoning, another one to you to remember: qualitative method versus quantitative method. It's a research method to study the differences qualitatively or quantitatively. What is that? Qualitatively. So if somebody is depressed, I go and ask them, are you depressed? Yeah. Okay. If 0 is very, very depressed, dark, 10 is so happy you're going to fly, what's your number? That could be marked. Somebody says, I am 1, or 2, or 0, so dark, bleak, I want to kill myself. Okay? You write down 0. You ask another person who's depressed, and you collect a lot of, and then I could say, a lot of depressed people feel an average number they feel. You could get an idea. That's quantitative measurement, right? Statistics, quantitative, quants. Qualitative is, I sit with that person and study them by asking questions. Tell me, when you feel depressed, how do you feel? Oh, that's more deeper. It's not like just give me a number and then I move on to another person. I have to dig in. When did you start feeling like this? Tell me a story. Have you always been depressed since your childhood? So then you write and you get an idea, deeper understanding of depression. I cannot collect thousands and 10,000s of this data because we don't have time. So one person I allot, and 2, maybe 10, 15. That's deep qualitative research. Quantitative is broad. I'll collect with thousands of people these numbers, and I could get an idea of overall the depression in New York City or Manhattan. But here I select few samples and study them in deep in qualitative. In sports analogy, if you like, running 9.8, 9.9 running, that's quantitative, clear-cut measurement. But if you do gymnastics, there's no measurement how much you stretch. The judges' perception, and they qualitatively observe it and rate it in a number, right? Weightlifting, there's a clear number, it's quantitative. Boxing, qualitative. Knockout, yes, clearly it could say. But otherwise, hit, where they're hitting and how much score the judges give. It's based on qualitative observation. I read your paper. I deduce, okay, how much score should I give? That's qualitative. You follow it? Qualitative versus quantitative. Both are applied. In my doctoral dissertation, I have to use mixed methods, which is both qualitative and quantitative. Had to. Based on the research, you use both or one or the other. All right? You with me? That's comparative politics. You're getting lots, but keep following me. Now, write down what institutions means. Institutions. I told you a little dry it'll be the first one. So, don't worry. That's how the book is arranged. And you read the book, read the lectures. If you have questions, you could ask me. Okay? Institutions. What does institution mean? Institutions mean those are a body where it has rules, values, or norms. Okay? Baruch is an institution. Its value is to educate people. Educate. I'm part of the institution. My job is to educate you. Similarly, Supreme Court. That's an institution. I already mentioned it, right? So what is that? To deliver justice. Justice. Case comes to them. They won't take all the cases. Out of thousands applied, 100 plus will be taken because they don't have the resources and time to take all the cases, appeal to them. They take that and then they deliver a justice. Hopefully, they're giving their best. It won't be the justice in God's eyes or anything, but they're doing their best, just like every professor trying to do their best. So institutions will be studying political institutions. We won't be studying educational institutions like Baruch. If you are an educational major getting a master's, they will be studying about education institutions. But this is about political institutions, like governmental institutions, like executive branch, like the judicial branch, legislative branch, how it functions. It's different from US versus England. Both are democracies, but they're different. They don't have president. They have parliament system. They have prime minister. America doesn't have prime minister, right? So that's a difference. And then you go to China, it's not a democracy. It has a president, but there it's not checks and balances. So we will be studying different types of institutions inside the country. Oh, that reminds me, I mentioned only 7 scholars. Yeah, I didn't tell you 8th one. See, you probably got it when I was giving about, I'm talking about the 8 people, 4 thinkers for comparative politics. Another one, write it down. Go back and add it there. Charles, you know how to spell Charles. Montesquieu. Charles Montesquieu is I don't know whether I mentioned it. I don't think I mentioned it. Not either way, it's okay to mention again. Charles Montesquieu. Okay, 1689 to 1755. He wrote this book called Spirit of Laws. Spirit of Laws. What's the deal about this guy? The founding fathers read this book. He talked about checks and balances. You heard of it. Checks and balances. That means Madison said ambition should be checked by ambition. So the president cannot become a dictator. There's Congress to check him. And then the Supreme Court. You have 3 branches. So he doesn't want, if you were Julius Caesar, a dictator in Rome, you have all the powers. You could create any law. You could kill anybody saying the law, give the judgment there, boom, execute them. Because you had the powers. Here, Montesquieu said it should be divided. Executive branch should have executive functions. Don't worry if you don't know what that means, I will be explaining all the branches. Don't worry, not in this lecture, later. But now just follow. Executive branch, legislative branch, judicial branch. He is the one came up with this idea to have different branches, to have checks and balances. And our founding fathers took it. So now we compare. When I was talking about that, boom, that idea came to my mind. I don't think I mentioned it. Okay, now going back to, we talked about institutions. So we'll be studying different institutions. And another thing, qualitative, quantitative, then with institutions, inductive, deductive reasoning. I hope you're following. And now we're going to talk about 2 opposites. Freedom and equality. Countries around the world, governments, struggle to create freedom and equality, the balance between them. If you create too much freedom, then equality could be affected. If you create too much equality, freedom could be affected. So it's like a seesaw. Okay? What do you mean? Give us as an example. Well, in the United States, we have more freedom, individual freedom. So one person could go and become a billionaire and keep amassing wealth more and more. And there are so many homeless people in the streets. So freedom is high. Equality. There's a billionaire and a homeless person. That's not an equality. Whereas if you go to communistic countries like Cuba, you're not going to find billionaires. Nobody. Because there's no private property. You don't have businesses. The government has everything possessed. But you won't find paupers as well. It's a leveling field. Leveling field. You understand? Okay. So they try to equalize idea of communism, but you won't have individual freedom to thrive. So that's the difference. All right. So now I'm going to talk about, this is the last run up, 7 points, and we're done with the lecture. But this 7 points is about 7 major challenges for comparative political scientists. Like what are the challenges they face when they are doing this type of political science. The first one, write it down. I'll tell you, and then I'll explain it. Difficulty controlling the variables. Variables, variables. Difficulty controlling variables. So I already told you, comparative political scientists study different countries and different systems of government inside the countries and how they function, all those things. Okay. Now, why do they have problem controlling variables? Well, I'll explain to you. Say I want to, again, I'm going to bring exercise and diet, all this, especially young people know these things. And so it's an easy analogy. So say, for example, I want to study between me and you and know whether weightlifting, okay, this is hypothesis, weightlifting builds muscle. Okay. And that's my hypothesis. I want to study. Now, you and I are selected. Okay. There will be more people, but I'm just going to use for simple. We both will be given the same diet. Okay. And you will be asked to lift weights. I will be asked to just run or walk or swim, whatever, aerobic exercise, not weightlifting. And after 2 months or 1 month, they will measure the percentage of change in muscle mass in both of us. And they might find that you lifting weights have improved muscle mass. And then they could tell, oh yes, weightlifting has improved muscle mass in him. Whereas this guy, me, did everything you did, but I didn't. Now, they had to control other variables. What do you mean other variables? We both have to sleep equal amount of time because that's important in muscle building. We have to eat the same type of food. What if one of us is not eating high protein diet and you ate a high protein diet and I didn't? Then other person could say, hey, he got muscle because he ate good protein and he didn't eat protein, right? That's a variable that should be controlled. So everything should be controlled and only one variable should be tweaked so you could study the other ones. That's in research is possible. Whereas in comparative politics, you're studying countries, you cannot control variables, economy, and war, and ethnic conflicts, and inside tensions, political tensions, so many variables which you don't have control. So it's hard to study whether one variable, which is lifting weights, X, is causing Y, building muscle. Are you following me? Okay. All right. So the difficulty controlling variables, because it's in reality, a researcher cannot go and control an entire country. Everybody in the country stop, do as I say, and let's see whether, no, you can't do that. You just observe, empirical. Remember, Aristotle, observe and then deduce, deductive reasoning. Second problem, major problem for challenge for comparativists is multi-causality, spelling M-U-L-T-I, multi-causality, C-A-S-U-A-L-I-T-Y. That means multiple causes. Bring the same example from before. Lifting weights increases muscle mass. Okay? Whereas in a country, if you're studying, say, poverty, okay, why poverty is caused in this country. One factor could be lack of education. The country is not giving proper education to its people. That could cause poverty because in a globalized world, if you have an educated people, they will be making more money, more businesses and other success. If they freaking don't know how to read and write, how are they going to succeed in anything in the world? That could be. But that alone is not the factor. There could be that their geography for trade, they're landlocked, surrounded by, landlocked means a country which is in the middle of other countries which are freaking fighting all the time. Civil war is going around, and you can't do anything because you can't trade with the country, warring country. You can't take your goods and go to the ocean because you got to go through a country which is fighting, and your goods will be lost. How are you going to get rich? So that could be another factor. So it's a multi-causality, so multiple factors. So you might think, oh, it's because the country doesn't have educated people, so they're poor. It could be also they couldn't freaking trade because they're surrounded by land. Other countries, landlocked means surrounded by countries which are strife of civil war, and they're not able to trade with the neighboring countries or faraway countries because they got to go to the ocean. You following? I'm just giving you random examples, but these are valid examples. You could write it down. Third one, causes, problem, challenges for a comparativist. Time and money. To study muscle mass growth, 1 month, 2 months, I could study. Boom. I could study how much percentage muscle you have gained over me. Whereas studying why a country is poor, you need decades of study. Countries could be poor and then become rich. China was poor for a long time until the 1980s. It switched the gears, and it becomes second largest economy in the world, and it's about to beat the United States by 2040, become the number one richest country in the world. India was poor country until 1991. Now it's like second fastest growing economy in the world. So things change, but you have to study for a long time. And so comparative political scientists, they don't have money and time for long study. So that's another challenge. Are you following? Fourth one, too few cases. When you're studying muscle growth based on weightlifting, okay, you will not just study you and me. I just used as an example, right? You will be studying 100 people on this side, 100 in this side, 100 who were just walking, 100 who was lifting, but everything else is same, like sleeping, food, everything for the 100 people on both sides. Hundreds and hundreds of countries are not there. Okay, there's only 193 countries. Where are you going to find hundreds and hundreds of countries? And especially if you're studying democracies, it reduces. Especially if you're studying dictatorial countries, it reduces further. You don't even have 100 countries in dictatorial countries because most of the countries in the world are democratic countries. So it reduces. Communistic countries even reduces into small size. So you have very few cases. Less cases means other unknown variables could drive it. You won't get a good answer. If you're a researcher, you will know. You have to take my research design class and other professors to understand this in detail. But I'm giving you. Take it. The next point. Fifth one, area studies. Just write down area studies. Area studies means professors become expert in a region. So there are professors who call themselves Latin Americanist. So they will be expert in Latin America, countries in Latin America. So if you ask him about Cuba, yes, he knows. It's one of the countries in Latin America. So he will be able to, communism in Cuba. But if you want him to compare it to North Korea, which is also a communistic country, completely different area. That's in Asia. He doesn't have expertise in Asia. I mean, it takes a long time to gain expertise in one area. To gain expertise, how many lives? So it's harder. Are you following? It's harder. That's the challenges. Area studies. Sixth one, randomize case selection. So when they are selecting cases, going back to the example of weightlifting and muscle building, randomize. When they're selecting 100 people, they won't look at, these people look like they don't have muscle, so go to the walking group. These people already look like they could gain muscle easily. That's a bad design. That means you're sending people who already look like they could have muscle to go into the weightlifting group. And of course, they're going to have strong muscle growth. That's bad design. Randomly, you have to select people. That's when it's fair, that your study is authentic, that weightlifting has an impact in muscle building. Are you following me? Okay. So randomization, they say in every experiment, you cannot do randomization. You cannot ask countries, okay, you go this way, you go this way, this way, this way. No, you cannot divide. They're going to be there where they are geographically, and you use it however you want to study. Constraint. The last one, last challenge. Write down the word endogeneity. 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 That means, I'll give you an example and then explain. You understand that better that way. Cause could be okay. In weightlifting example again. Weightlifting is the cause. The effect is the muscle growth. Right? Weightlifting is the cause. Effect is muscle growth. Now, the effect could be also, not in this case, not in the weightlifting case. I'm going to give you another example for that. The effect could also drive the causal factor, circular. So I'll give you another example. Poverty, if a society has poverty, that could be making people not get education because they don't have access to good schools nearby. They live in an area. Because of not having education, so cause is poverty, effect is education, not having good education. Now, the effect, not having good education, could drive poverty as well. You understand? So you don't know which one is the cause, which one is the effect. It could be the effect, could be the cause driving poverty and violence. There's a study. Poverty causes violence, and violence also causes poverty. That's endogeneity. That's a problem. You cannot clearly say like, oh, weightlifting causes muscle. Muscle doesn't cause people to lift weights. It could be. I don't know, because people naturally tend to put on muscle, might go and lift more weights. I don't know. But we are using that example as to explain things. So endogeneity, you understand. So these are the 7 problems, okay, challenges for comparativists. Now let's talk about a new topic. How are states formed, like these countries? United States, now 50 states it encompasses, okay? A large country. You know what's the largest landmass country in the world? Russia. Second is, landmass-wise, Canada, then United States. Now China comes close. So landmass is important. Before means I'm talking about Aristotle times, there's not many population. Now you have like 7.4 billion people. Every 40 years, in the last 40 years, population doubled, the world population. Even if you go in the 1910s, if you go, the entire country population when America got its independence was like in few millions. That's nothing even compared to New York City population. We have like 9 million now, 8.5 New York City. The entire country, 13 colonies, didn't have as much as New York City's population. Can you believe? So population increases around the world. And so small population created cities. And those cities created states. States means their own government, own borders, military, all that. Right? Even before, if you go, people were what? For tens of thousands of years ago, they were hunter-gatherers because agriculture was invented just about 12,000 years ago. Middle East and 4 or 5 areas around the world at the same time. Before that, we were hunter-gatherers. We hunt and gather. Yeah, hunting is done by men, gathering is by women. By the way, side note, women gathered more calories than men. Yeah, even though the men go and hunt, women actually gathered roots and other things which produced more calorie nutrition for the family. Anyway, hunter-gatherer societies were maybe 30, 40 people together because you can't go and hunt to one person. If you go back even further, mastodon and other things roamed. Can you go alone to hunt with the spear at one mastodon? You're going to be dead. Yeah. So you got 10 people trying to surround the animal and kill it. So that way, groups started gathering and become chiefdom, maybe few hundred people, and then thousands. And then it becomes a city-state. That's what growth happens. Why do they do that? So that protection, not only from wild animals, but other people won't come and take your resources. War is a natural part of. Jean-Jacques Rousseau said, man in nature is good, but only civilization created him, made him create being wild and warlike. Actually, they found a lot of native cultures are very warlike, hunter-gatherer societies. Either way, it's natural state of man, war. So for war, it's a beautiful quote, war created state, state created war, according to a scholar, okay, Charles Cleany. But war created state, state created war. So war is an essence of human beings from hunter-gatherer societies, and it evolved into city-states, and then they did formal wars, military, with horses. In India, elephants. Yeah, elephants were used in battle. When Alexander the Great from West went and fought with the Indian king, elephants he has to face. His army has never seen anything like that. War elephants coming towards you. So now I want you, this lecture, I want to stop soon. I want you to watch the documentary I post along with it, so you will understand why African societies were having disadvantages while the Europeans had advantages for economic growth. It's a great documentary. The book won a Pulitzer Prize, which is like winning an Oscar in acting. This is for writing. Book called Guns, Germs, Steel. This is made into documentary. I'm going to post those documentaries as well. I want you to watch it. We'll go from and write 3 paragraphs watching this lecture for the question asked, and 3 paragraphs for the documentary. Good luck. I'll see you in the next class.